Welcome to another episode of Room for a Podcast. I am Brittany and have another guest on today's episode, Stephanie. How you doing today?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, no complaints. I'm glad to have you on the episode. I met you back in I think 2020. When I signed up for a kickboxing membership, me and my wife, and met you there. You were one of the coaches, and a kick-ass coach. It was pretty
Thank you.
cool. It was a fun experience.
Thank you so much. I have moved away from fitness a little bit since leaving Burn, just because kickboxing was an awesome workout, but Burn, without saying anything poorly, was a very toxic. I think fitness in general, like the fitness world, once you become very involved in it, can become very toxic. I established an eating disorder while I was teaching fitness. That kind of brought me to my spiritual awakening because I looked physically the healthiest I've ever looked, but mentally felt the worst I have ever been.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was the fact that I had to put on a mask while teaching. Like, I wasn't allowed to have any of the real shit going on when I was teaching fitness because I had to show up for everybody else.
Mhm.
And I think it took honestly a very decent toll on my mental health. But I'm thankful for the opportunity because it led to my spiritual awakening, and I've honestly never felt better. So I got to give it
And
all the credit.
I want to say this is no shade or hate to any
Yeah, no, not at all.
fitness groups or gyms here in Syracuse and nothing like that. She just talked about her experience, and it's understandable though that if you're teaching fitness and you're a coach and like you're like the face of what fitness supposed to be like, supposedly, and then it can take a mental toll on you if you gotta constantly be a certain way
Yeah,
just
it
to keep the clients coming who don't really
exactly.
understand that it's a whole mind, body, soul experience. It's not just physically fit. It's like much more than that.
Yeah, and I think the fitness world doesn't necessarily. I look so bad. I'm so sorry.
You're
Doesn't
good.
necessarily touch on the whole mind, body, soul like wellness. The
Hmm.
fitness world is awesome. If like all you want to do is like become physically fit, then like go to your classes. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to exercise. You need 30 minutes of exercise every day just for the serotonin and the dopamine. But
Yeah.
what I was doing was probably like it became an unhealthy obsession. I like started losing weight, lost 85 pounds, and was like, oh, I can lose more. And that's when like the eating disorder came into play, and I was working out 5 times a day to teach classes, not realizing how much that was putting on my body. And I do have an autoimmune disease, so like I have issues with my joints to begin with, and I used to just ignore pain as opposed to like feeling into it and really dealing with it. And a
Hmm.
lot of it was stress. I wasn't sleeping enough. I was stressed out just like because I hadn't slept. I was going through a lot personally by the time I left, and I just think it was time. I think like I needed fitness to like show me I could control something, and now I am like in a whole different world than I was when I was like hell bent on being thin. And I learned that thin doesn't mean that you're healthy either. Like, I was the thinnest I'd ever been at 125 pounds, but like my lupus was the worst it's ever been. I was passing out again. I was still having heart issues, even though I lost this weight. Like, there was so much more underneath that I didn't realize that like my subconscious body was holding on to that was causing health issues that I thought was all directed towards the fact that I was heavier.
Yeah.
Like I was just trying to suppress symptoms as opposed to like healing the actual problem.
Yeah. I can understand when you said you were, physically you were the smallest you've ever been, and it looked, oh, I'm healthy now, I'm smaller. The symptoms that I'm having from, lupus, it's still there, but you're just like, oh nope, I'm smaller now.
Yep.
I'm good to go. And for me, back in like before 2020, I say for like from 2016 to 2020, I worked out religiously.
Hmm.
If I go, look at old pictures, like I look healthy. I'm
Yeah.
super fit. I'm lean. All that. But mentally and emotionally, I was like burnt out.
Hmm.
I was spiritually bankrupt.
Yep.
I was like just a walking shell. I drank all the time. Um, I didn't really have a social life. It was like a fake social life. I didn't have genuine, meaningful relationships, and I was just like super empty.
Yep.
And then I think in 2020, when I started going to the kickboxing gym, I was like, I'm going to get back on track. And even then, at the time, I thought it was just all about physically fit. I was ignoring the mental part of it. I was ignoring the spiritual part of it. I was just trying to like move my body. And again, that's only one part of the mind body. So it's a small, it's a huge part, but it's only one part.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing the nutrition. I wasn't really honing in on the spiritual aspect. I wasn't really paying attention to my mental. It was just, again, you can't just do one thing and expect this whole change in your life, but it will open up the doors to learn more. You know, like for you, you said you start working out, and then it you realize there was more to life. So let's get into that.
Yeah. So I love, like I said, I love fitness, and I have a degree in exercise science and kinesiology, and I will always be like a major part in fitness and athletics because I do enjoy moving the body. But what I realized, probably right after I quit Burn, I was unemployed for a month, and I am like, it's the East Coast mentality where we're always grinding, you know, like no matter what, I'm a hustler. Like I'm gonna go make my money. I don't care how, like I'm gonna do it. Like I grew up poor, so like no matter what, it was like I'm going to have a paycheck because I'm going to make sure that I don't lack, you know.
Yeah,
And for the month that I was unemployed, my wife gave me the opportunity to like slow the fuck down. Sorry, I don't mean to swear, but like slow
that's
down.
good.
And I had never slowed down. Like I have always been a person who has had 3 or 4 jobs, or was in school working 2 jobs. Like always had something going on. So I never had a minute to think. And being unemployed forced that out of me. It was like, take a break.
Yeah,
And I had a serious health scare in 2021 where I had heart surgery because I had supraventricular tachycardia. So what that is like pretty much my heart would slip into AFib and I would like faint. And I couldn't
mm,
figure out a reason for it. It's an automatic nervous system disorder, and I didn't know. So I had to really advocate for myself in that point because, like, 1 out of 4 women have what is called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So it's not something that is super regular, and it's not something that is well researched yet. So I
okay,
had to advocate for myself, and I even had doctors telling me because I was 25, like, you're healthy, you're 25, you're thin, like, there's no reason for you to be having heart issues, you shouldn't be passing out, like, go to a neurologist. So I went to 5 different kinds of doctors before one of them finally listened to me and said, telling me I was having anxiety and was like, oh, like this is an automatic nervous system disorder. Do you know about the vagus nerve? And do you know about holistic modality? And I was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, give me a pill to fix my heart so I can go back to my life, which is very much like an Eastern or a Western medicine type of thing. Like, Western medicine is based on pharmacology. And I worked in a
yeah,
pharmacy and I understand pharmacology. That was my job before I got into fitness. I worked in a pharmacy at Wegmans. So I understand that half, but it wasn't doing what I needed it to do. Like, what medicine does is suppress your symptoms, and that's what it's for.
yeah.
It's so you can continue to live your day-to-day life whether you have a chronic illness or not. Like, that's what
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to work, like,
Get
no
back into the
matter what.
workforce.
Exactly. We're trying to get you back to work. Like, and that's such an East Coast mentality too when you think about the snow and stuff. Like, it's never like, oh, take the snow day, be careful. It's wake up 3 hours early, dig your car out, risk your life, and get to work on time. Like, we don't want to hear
Yeah.
it. You live with snow every day, grow up, you know? And that's
Mm-hmm.
the same way that Western medicine is. It's like, you live with this every day. Here's a pill, grow up and go to work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when I finally started talking about holistic modalities and like somatic breath work and how your body holds on to trauma, and like my doctor pretty much told me I had reached my breaking point. Like, my automatic nervous system could not handle anything else. Like, it
What
was
was
constantly
this was this when you were still in Syracuse or when you
yeah.
moved to West Coast?
No, it
Okay.
was in Syracuse. Yep.
Okay.
It was in Syracuse. That's how it all started. So yeah, so I had my heart surgery in 2021. I became unemployed. I don't know, 2022 at some point. And then I finally started listening to it. So like, I finally saw a doctor that was like, I understand that you had the surgery. Like, look into holistic modalities. Like, you might not be able to find it here, but like, I know there are some Reiki specialists. Look into it. It might help. And I was like, okay, cool. So when I became unemployed, it would have been March or April of 2022. I had nothing but time to read, and I started reading a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And what
Yeah, I
that
read that.
is, yeah, it's a great book, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in like Eastern
Learning
medicine,
about yourself.
holistic medicines, holistic modalities, like more than just I'm depressed because I live in Syracuse. Like I would give it to every single person in Syracuse if I could, because we do not see the sun, and I don't think people understand how important vitamin D is, especially
Yes.
when it comes to your mental health. Like everyone
Yes.
in Syracuse is perpetually depressed and just dealing with it and not talking about it.
When I first moved here, I moved from San Diego, and
Mhm.
I was so miserable, but I didn't understand why. I'm like, for one, I'm like, it's cold. I hate it here. It's so cold. It's snowing. And then like, where's the sun? I hate it. I hate it. And then it took like maybe a whole year. Well, Stephanie was mentioning like, maybe you should take vitamin D supplements. I'm like, why do I need that? And I was so depressed,
Yeah,
all because the vitamin D,
it's
lack of
because
vitamin D.
it's because of lack of vitamin D. Vitamin D helps with your helps control your cortisol production, and cortisol is the stress hormone inside of the brain. Like so you are constantly either depressed because you're not getting enough dopamine because you're not seeing the sun, or you're not getting enough serotonin because we're locked inside for 8 months out of the year when you're in Syracuse, New York. And like, yeah, you end up perpetually depressed, and everyone in Syracuse is miserable. Like, if you ask people how their day was, they'll be like, oh, it's fine. Like, I'm surviving. But
Mm-hmm.
like, because you live in San Diego, you ask people out here, and they're like, the world is fucking beautiful. Today is a
Yeah.
great day. I love everyone. God bless. Like, and
And,
it's
and,
so
and,
crazy.
And out here, like when it like maybe around April, when you finally have like maybe 2 sunny days, and you go to the store, and then people hold the door for you, they speaking,
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh, how you doing? I'm having a great day." And I'm like, "See, look at the sunlight, changing people's lives, bringing in the sunshine of the
Yeah.
spirit." But then let it get back cloudy for 2 weeks. It's back to like fucking door slamming on
Yeah,
your
and
back of your foot.
misery. And misery. And I get it. Like, I even tell people out here, because my job when I moved, obviously I like laterally moved from my position in Syracuse to like being out in Nevada. And they ask me all the time, they're like, why is everyone in the Syracuse office so mad? And I'm like, because they don't see the sun. Like, in the
Mm-hmm.
best way, it's because nobody sees the sun. And we hate it. Like, and everyone who came to Syracuse, minus a couple of like implants that moved to Syracuse, was born and raised in the
Yeah.
tundra and has never seen anything but the tundra. Like, we might
Mm-hmm.
vacation, but they don't know how other cultures, like just across the country, vary from ours. And I think it's insane. So then I got into holistic healing. I got into somatic breath work. That was my first part of holistic modality, which is like the most life changing thing I've ever experienced. Honestly, I didn't think breath work was going to work as well as it did, but it truly allows you to focus and release your subconscious. Like every time I do a breath work um, session, it's usually about an hour long. It's very focused on the way that you're breathing. It unlocks the subconscious, it relaxes the vagus nerve, and allows you to process trauma. I end up crying every time. And
Mm-hmm.
not like slight tears, like ugly crying over things that I thought I had worked through or I had learned to suppress my entire life, that I didn't think I had to process again. And that's when I got into meditation. I got into yoga. I got into um, all kinds of different holistic work that helped the vagus nerve and helped me process all of the traumas I had been through without sinking into a depression.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is huge. I do still take, I'm not gonna lie, I still take my like depression medication because I've been on it for years, and I'm gonna keep taking it because it at least keeps me level.
Mm-hmm.
But my holistic modalities have helped with the fluctuation between, like, I have bipolar disorder, so it helps with the fluctuation between my mania and my depressive states more than anything I've ever done when it comes to like Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I'm on an SSRI, so if I don't take it, I start to withdraw, and it sucks. And that's probably why I will continue to take it my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But holistic modalities has helped so much, and I didn't do it on my own either. Like, I have a coach. Her name is Shelby Valentine. She's from Sedona. She's certified and very well versed in Buddhism and the Kundalini rites, holistic medicine. She's a holistic life coach
Mm-hmm.
at her core, but like is so much more than that. And she's become a mentor to me. And I'm actually going on a holistic health retreat in 9 days in the vortex in the heart of Sedona, to really help expand my spiritual enlightenment. Because
That's
I
gonna be fun.
just cracked the surface. Yeah, yeah,
That's
I'm
gonna be
so
nice.
excited. It's definitely an edge because my wife and I were assaulted, and we haven't necessarily been apart for too long since. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm very excited. I think it's like the next step I need in order to start practicing my medicine with other people. Because I
Wait,
do,
you say you and your wife were assaulted.
yeah. Yes, we can touch back. So
Okay.
in November of 2021, it was my 27th birthday, and we were at Trex in Syracuse.
Okay.
First time we had ever been there. I didn't really know anything about Trex. I just knew that it was one of the two gay bars, and we went to Wonder Bar. It seemed like very relaxed, and we wanted to dance. And we knew that Trex had a stage because they do the
Mm-hmm.
drag shows. So we were like, all right, they gotta have a DJ. We might as well go. So we went. I wanted to make sure my wife felt comfortable because like some of my family is not super pumped about the fact that I'm gay, and that's their own prerogative and whatever. But so I was like, all right, let's go somewhere where we're gonna be allowed to be ourselves. Like I had just come
Yeah.
out. I was ready to fucking like be happy and gay and show the world that like I had a
Yeah.
wife and she was hot as shit. Like I was so pumped. Like I was like, yeah, let's go. So we went, we used the same bathroom stall together, which is not something that pertains to just the lesbian culture, and I would like to point that out. That is straight. I used to use bathroom stalls with my guys. Come here. You're okay.
All
I think he's just at the door. One second.
right. Now, this is part of doing
Oh,
life.
Natalie's got him. I don't know. My wife's got him. So
It's part of doing life. When you have pets or
guys,
children.
come here. No, I have a pit, but we
eh,
just got a puppy too, so it's chaos.
yeah, I get it. I understand.
We have two big dogs and a puppy now. Why do we need a cat? I don't
Basically, you
know if
have
you've seen
like
them.
three. You have 4 kids.
Yeah, I have four
You
kids.
have-
I do. I went from having no kids to saying I don't want kids to having four children
Hey, that was me. That was
now.
me all the way.
Well, but yeah, so we used to say bathroom stall together, which I had done my entire life, like as a woman who was involved with men. Like, if we were in line, me and a friend, I'd go with her. Like I didn't want to fucking wait. We would just go. So,
Yeah.
mind you, it would not have been a problem anywhere else. I just think these girls were looking for a fight. So when we got out of the bathroom, the girl was like, one person to a stall. And my wife was like, haha, okay. Like, and we walked by. So then we went to the bar to grab a drink. This is back when I was drinking. I don't drink anymore. But we went to grab a drink, and this girl punched her in the back of the head. So Natalie, in the best way, turned around and was like ready to go. So I grabbed Nat, and I was like, not worth it. It's my birthday. Like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
The bouncer came and threw my wife out. Okay. Threw my wife out, kept these girls in the bar. And I was like, that's not how this happened. Like, this girl hit her. Like, if you're going to throw someone out, you're throwing them out, not my wife. Like, get away from me. So she finally was let inside, and we were like, okay. I looked at her. I was like, it's almost 2 a.m. anyway. Like, let's go home. This isn't fun. Like, it's not worth it. Like, at this point, I'd rather go home. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. And she was like, it's your birthday. I don't want to ruin it. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to leave. Like, this isn't fun for me anymore either. Like, I'm not trying to watch you get the shit kicked out of you. Like, let's go. So we walked out of Trex. We took one step to the left. There was an alleyway on the right. There was 10 girls. They took me into the middle of the street. 5 of them had me. 5 of them had my wife. And we were assaulted for 45 minutes. Nobody called the police. Nobody said anything. I had 2 black eyes, a broken nose, a concussion. My wife had broken ribs, and now she has permanent nerve damage in her hand from getting stomped on. So the next morning, I had enough adrenaline to get us home afterward. And the next morning I woke up, I walked into the bathroom, I realized that my face was black and blue, and I was like, what the fuck happened? And everything kind of slowly came back. So we called the police. Syracuse police told us we could go back and find out their names if we wanted to press charges. I was like, we're not going back. Why would I go back? Why would I go back to the place that just hurt me? When it is literally like what taxpayer dollars are paying for. Like, this is your job. Go figure it out. Like, I know there are cameras at the, like, on city streets in the city of Syracuse. I know there are, so go check them.
Yeah. I'm sorry
So,
that happened to y'all. That's
yeah, I mean,
it's
it was
insane.
wild. It was a wild time. I think if it hadn't been us, it would have been somebody else. Like, they were looking for a fight, and that doesn't excuse their behavior.
People go into the bathroom together all the time, like especially at like gay clubs.
Yeah.
You know, just it happens all the time. It's so frequent, especially if there's long lines. Like you go in, whatever the case may be. But
I've
I don't know.
always done that. That's what I'm saying. Like, even at concerts, I've always gone into the stall. So, like, we didn't even think about it. And I guess, yes, it being a gay bar, like, I insinuates that maybe we were doing something, but we weren't even in the bathroom for very long. Like, we literally just, like, went to the bathroom, got out. Because, like, we knew there was line and we're not trying to be rude. Like, it wasn't like we were doing anything, but we are very much a lesbian presenting couple. Like, I have a masculine lesbian wife, and she looks like a little boy in the best way, and, like, I am a very
But it's
feminine.
Trex. Trex is a gay club,
Exactly.
so
It is a
it
gay
doesn't
club.
matter.
Yup. And the bouncers let it happen. Nobody called the police. Like, nobody cared. And I'm not mad. I think I was just more disappointed with the city of Syracuse that nobody wanted to stand up for us.
Yeah.
Which is really what pushed us to move to the West Coast. Like, we got assaulted, and I was like, we're gonna be out by the end of next year. Like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't want to do it. Like, I told my wife, I was like, if there's one thing I want for my 28th birthday, it's to not live here anymore. Like, I'm done. I had enough trauma in Syracuse. That was just like the tipping point almost. And I was like, I'm out. Like, I'm good. After I quit Burn, that's really when everything, like, it was the catalyst to us figuring out how to move.
Like the floodgates opened up, huh?
Honestly, yeah, because Bernie was the only thing keeping me in Syracuse. Like, yes, I have family there, but I know they all survive. I'm one of 8.
Mhm.
And like my mom's got grandkids. Like, it's totally fine. Like, whatever. So it wasn't necessarily that my family was holding me there. Yes, I love them, but they understand that like I'm an adult and eventually I'm going to move, and I have dreams bigger than the city of Syracuse. So like they didn't care. But it was
Yeah.
really, yeah, it was honestly the me assaulted, me leaving Burn, and then like getting the job opportunity, which is what pushed us out here. We both knew. Come here, Rem. We both knew we wanted to be on the West Coast because, like, I did get very involved with spirituality and holistic medicine, and we got
Mhm.
engaged at the Grand Canyon, and we loved Arizona, and we were like, all right, we're gonna figure it out. So we did. I manifested the shit out of it, and we got here. I don't know how. We left with $1,000 2 months after we got married, and made it out here. And now we've been out here for 9 months, and it was the best decision I ever made. So
That's awesome. So let's go back to, you said you have this spiritual retreat coming up in 9 days, and this is the first time y'all been away apart
yeah.
since the assault. And so what does the retreat consist of? Like, how do you feel about it? Are you
So
excited? Are you nervous?
I have many emotions about it. So I am anxious for the fact that my wife will be home alone. But I also do remember that like we moved across country and like no one knows we exist here. So the
Yeah.
chances of anything happening are like much slimmer than they would have been in Syracuse, where like people knew us and like knew my apartment and whatever. Um, so I'm a little bit anxious about that, but we do have 3 dogs, and all of them are big. We have a pit bull, a German Shepherd, and now an Australian Shepherd. So
Hmm.
we got 3 big dogs. She'll be good. Like, I'm not worried about it. Plus, she's a scrappy little girl. Like, that woman would fight somebody for staring at me wrong. Like, I give her all that. But I'm very excited. So what the retreat entails is it's 3 days in a container with 8 other women. And it's called de-armoring the self. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tear apart some layers of like traumatic experience and how to process through it. We'll do breath work. We'll do something called goddess yoga, which is meant to explore like sensuality, um, and sexuality and moving the body in a way that is liberating but also exercise. We're gonna go hiking in the vortex. I don't know if you know what the vortex is. So the vortex is different energy fields that are spread out throughout the Coast, honestly,
Hmm.
where um, masculine and feminine energies meet in the center of Sedona. So we're gonna go do like a meditation there in hopes to unlock like a whole new realm. We're gonna do a lot of ancestral healing, um, and stuff like that. I mean, I have like a list of things that we're gonna be doing, but a lot of them I'm still learning, which is
Yeah.
why I want to go, because eventually I would like to be a holistic healing coach. Like, that's what I
Yeah.
am called to do. I've always been called to help people somehow, just how I got into fitness and like how I got into healthcare and all these things. I just haven't found where it fits correctly for my life now.
It sounds
Um,
like you're on the right path, because if you've known your whole life you enjoy helping people, and in each and like at different chapters of your life, it's always helping people in some kind of way. And so it sounds like you're finding your way to your highest self.
yeah,
And as far as like, I just lost my train of thought.
story of my life, honestly.
As far as like the holistic healing and all that, and some people take medication, it's like the medication isn't to just, it helps, but you're still not you, but people are still supposed to do the other things to help heal their body. You know, a lot of folks just take the medication and then think that's going to be like the okay, I'm taking medicine now, I'm
Yeah.
good, and then a few months later it's like, well, I still feel like crap, or now, you know, it's worse, or it's, you know, there's another offset somewhere. It's
Hmm.
because mind, body, and soul. Like some people need medication for the way their brain operates. Cool, take the medication, but also, and you know, like
Yeah.
do the holistic way, like, you know, nutrition, spiritual, like you do breath work.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I'm sure you're probably familiar with them. Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yep.
Man, I love his information. I came across his information back in 2021 or the beginning of 2022, because in 2021, you know, that's when, yeah, I was like going through my little depressive state, and trying to figure out like what can I do differently, because I can't live this way no more. Like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm like, what can I do
Hmm.
differently? And then, you know, once you start seeking things out, then you see opportunities. You see information differently. Like, okay, maybe let me listen to this YouTube video. Let me read this book, and then again the floodgates open, and
Yeah,
there was
I
like a
think
ton of information, ton of knowledge. I'm like, man, so you mean to tell me that just getting in touch with my body and my soul, my, you know, neurons that fire together wire together, so I can rewire the way I think and the way I behave, and my life can be differently. It was just like mind blowing, mind blowing.
neuroplasty is crazy, honestly. And I learned about neuroplasty when I was back in a nursing program, which is the rewiring of your brain through consistent habit. And like that's when, remember how I used to tell you, like it takes 21 days to create a routine, 90 days to create a lifestyle change,
Hmm.
whatever, however many days to create a habit. I learned all of that in my nursing program, and I managed to apply it here.
Hmm.
Just like you said, yeah, like I read How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicola Perry, who is a holistic psychologist. And that's what sent me into like learning about holistic modality, because she had a similar health experience where she was fainting, and my coach Shelby like went blind one day, literally could not see, like, and there was no medical explanation for it besides like that her body had stored up so much trauma and was pretty
Hmm.
much short circuiting.
Yeah.
Which is what happened in my life. That's why I was just fainting. Like it just, I had stored so much. My body was producing so much cortisol, stress hormone, that all of a sudden my body was like, "Bah, we're done. Like we're done. I can't do this shit anymore. Like I'm out. Figure, like I can't. I don't know."
Hmm.
And that's when I realized that like just taking meds is not enough. Like, yeah, we're taught to take meds, and then there's some type of taboo around going to talk therapy, but like talk therapy is a whole different, like it's still technically part of the Western medicine, but is so closely related to Eastern healing, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, talk therapy is the start of it. Like, yes, I'm proud of you for opening up to somebody and allowing yourself to speak your truth, but now let's take it to another level. Like, now let's process the shit. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you have talked about it, but now you need your body to fully process. And that's when meditation came into big play for me, because like I had never allowed myself to just stop.
Hmm.
And meditation takes a while. So for anybody who's trying to get involved in holistic medicine, start with meditation, but do it in small doses. That's the best way for me to bring it to somebody. You're never going to make your brain stop for an hour without training it. It's a muscle, just like anything
Hmm.
else. Start with 5-minute increments. You will have the monkey talk in your brain. Like your brain will still go a million miles an hour, but eventually you will learn to sit still.
Hmm.
Stillness in your body, stillness in the mind allows you to unlock so much. And like I, for the first time, met my inner child. And like when it came to my childhood, like I grew up in a very traumatic experience throughout my entire life. That like
Hmm.
I love my parents. They did as good as they knew how to do, but like it wasn't the best. And I know like I was abused as I was growing up. So like I know it was not the normal childhood that people have, where they have supportive parents who teach you how to camp and fish and you have a great life and like
I didn't
everything
have
is
that
wonderful.
either.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that feels like. That's why I moved across the country. So I like knew I had trauma, but I didn't think it was anything more than the next person, you know? Like I thought it was normal. Like
Yeah, same.
until I got into holistic medicine and somebody finally was like, "Stephanie, what the fuck?" Like my coach literally was like, "How have you just been dealing?" Like
Hmm.
And she was like, you know, that's a coping mechanism, right? That like you make these dark jokes because like I do. You make these jokes because you're trying to joke and like cope with what you have been through in a light that it doesn't seem so scary. And that's not it. Like what you went through was fucking horrifying. Like
Yeah,
no
your
kid,
brain.
yeah, like kids
Go
expect
go
your
ahead.
parents to protect you and yours didn't. Like so now
Your
you're
brain find ways to protect you, so
yeah,
it can be compartmentalizing. It can be like pushing it away as if it never happened, or for you the dark jokes, like, hey, this is what happened, and becoming completely numb, where you can make jokes about things and people are like, well, that's not funny, but you're still
yeah.
laughing about it.
Exactly. And like I was joking with the police officer the day of when we got assaulted. He was like, "Oh, rough birthday." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Best birthday I've ever had. Let's do it again." Like I've always been that person because I am perpetually trying to look strong to the world and it's exhausting. And my
Yeah.
body was finally fed up. Like it was like, "We've had enough. You've been a strong woman your entire life. Congratulations. You made it to 27. Give up now. Like release the reins."
Hmm.
Which is when I read How to Do the Work. I got involved with holistic healing. And yeah, I mean, ever since it's just been one giant catalyst. I actually have a shirt on that says Spirit Moves Quick because I like scratched the surface and like you said, the floodgates opened and all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, like spirituality is what I've been looking for my entire life. Like I knew I didn't belong in organized religion,
Hmm.
especially Roman Catholicism as a woman loving woman. Like they're not super pumped about it. So I didn't want to be
Hmm.
involved. And spirituality isn't necessarily a religion. It's a style. It's a lifestyle. Like it's just the way that
Yeah.
you inhabit everything. Like everything has feelings. Everything has a soul. Animism is a thing. Like you have spirit guides. I practice witchcraft, like in the best term. It's not like as scary as everybody thinks it is. But
Yeah, I
like
get
I
it.
do manifest things. Like I burn bay leaves. I do spell work. I do ancestral healing. I sit in my ancestor altar. Like I burn sage. I have different chakra incenses burning. I have a whole crystal set up. Like I have gone from, oh, this book made sense and I am interested to like fully embodying spiritualism and how to be a spiritualistic human being.
It's like, you know how they say ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Once you start to know more, it's like, man, this is like, now I have to do the work. I can't, knowing what I know, I can't sit here and do nothing, because then it's like internal turmoil.
Hmm.
You know, uh, it's like suffering. But if you don't know about it, about any of this stuff, then you just keep doing the same thing you've been doing. Yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. It's how you know. But then once you start to read and do research and like start to know who you are, how your body operates, start to know more about the spiritual part of life, then it's like, man, like I'm forced to do the work. I'm forced to move my feet, because now it's like, at this point, it's not even about things suck back there. It's more like life is so great, and I know it can get better. I know there's more out there,
Yes.
so I want to continue to learn and receive the information, so I can like have a full bliss life, and I can share this life with my loved ones.
Hmm.
And as far as the spirituality thing, so many people miss that part of life. They might have a religion, they may work out, whatever, maybe some nutrition, but the spiritual part, every human being needs to have some kind of spiritual relationship with something, a higher being, a higher power, the source. Because just like
Yeah.
if you plug in a lamp, the light turns on. If you plug in the lamp to the wall, the light turns on and it gives light. You plug in, if you don't plug it in, there's no light giving out. So it's just like, I look at it like, as a human being, I, I have a soul. I'm a spiritual being, so I have to connect with the source. I have to connect with my higher power, my creator, God, whatever whatever being people, whatever deity people want to call it.
Hmm.
We have to connect. We have a conscious for a reason, and people just, they're not connecting with that. It's easier to watch TV, listen to a lot of music, or just get distracted by other things, that unimportant things, instead of like tuning in with your innermost self, and connecting the gap or the bridge of who you are now to like your highest being.
Yeah, and
And it's
I think genuinely on the East Coast, because we have such a hustler mentality, a lot of people are just running on autopilot. Like we're just trying to get through to the next day, to the next paycheck, to the weekend, to whatever, that they are missing out on just being still with yourself and doing shadow work, which I, I want to get into. So shadow work is really looking into the darkest parts of yourself. So like when I said like I met my inner child, like I met the little girl who was horrified because I was never protected when I should have been, you know.
Mhm.
And it took a lot, like just me meeting my inner child, me involving myself in play again, me letting myself be silly, like and like messing around with my wife. Like my wife and I one day finger painted just as like an exercise for our inner child because we were living in autopilot. Like we were
In
touching.
survival.
Yeah, I was in survival mode, literally from the moment I was born up until the moment I moved out here. And like then when we first got out here, I was in survival and I met a bunch of people who were like-minded on the West Coast. And honestly, one of my very close friends out here, her name is Angie, is Hispanic, and her mom has always been involved in spirituality. She's always saged the house. She's always used Florida water. She has like different altars set up, and it was meeting my friend Angie and me talking to her about spirituality and holistic modality, and having her be like, "Oh my God, like this is the Mexican culture. Like this is just what I
Mhm.
grew up on. What do you mean this is something you're just learning?" Really opened my eyes to how much we miss out on the East Coast, specifically New York, because we do have the city, and the city has Wall Street, and we have always been told to grind. Like you are making money. If you're not making money, you're not doing it right.
Mhm.
Where out here, it is very much more spiritual based and family oriented, where people are like, if you need to go, like I told my boss I needed to go on this retreat for my mental health, and he was like, have the days off. Bye. Like, go do what you need to do. Where if I'd done that in New York, they would have been like, you don't have PTO. Like, no. So yeah, moving out here definitely opened my eyes up to how much I had been missing out on due to the fact that everything involving like holistic healing on the East Coast seems taboo. Like it just, I used to talk to people all the time about it and like witchcraft and crystals and all kinds of shit. And they would just be like, okay, hippie, like smoke another blunt and go
Mhm.
listen to Fish. Like, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's not, like, yeah, that's, I
Now
mean,
my
yeah, and those are enjoyable, but like, that's not it. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not because I'm
yeah.
like this little hippie who like wanted to live in the 60s. Like, no, I'm genuinely learning so I can teach this type of medicine because it is so different than what we have been taught our entire lives.
Mhm.
Um, and it's
Um
finally breaking into things.
Yeah, Stephanie, my wife, she has like crystals and she does all this.
Yeah, I knew I
It's
liked
like
Steph.
so the stuff that you're talking about, I'm already aware of it. Well, I'm so aware. I'm familiar with it because that's Stephanie's practice as
Yeah,
well. And it's nice and relaxing. And as far as like, I'm not from New York, so I can't
yeah,
say it's only in New York it's like that. I just know that usually it takes people to move away from what they're familiar with. So if you're from here, you have to get away from your family and get away from your comfort zone, familiar area that you're familiar with to go off, reconnect with yourself, find out who you are, and practice it um unapologetically
hmm,
to avoid any criticism and it's several reasons, but you have to get away.
yeah,
So I can understand why, and it's also is warm and sunny
yeah,
where you at, so
yeah,
it just like that's an extra plus.
yeah.
And I know a few people here who have the same practice, but again, it was like finding a needle,
In a haystack.
through.
Yep,
Yeah. So
that's
I
literally what
kind
it
of
is.
yeah.
And on the east, I mean, like in New York, especially in Syracuse, because we do have some good old boys who are like, so like
Yeah.
thinking that like the Confederacy is a thing, and they're so
Yeah.
out of
And
touch.
I was shocked. I'm like, this is New York. And I'm born and raised. I'm born and raised in Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah,
So I just thought it was just the South. I went to San Diego, cool, whatever. Came up here. I'm like, oh, it's a small town, but whatever. And I realized how like it's kind of real, I ain't gonna say
yeah, it's
racist,
real
but it's a
ignorant.
little
It's
bit
real ignorant.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
okay.
And I knew that being raised in that situation, like in an ignorant situation, I knew that. And like from the moment I was born, I was like, I will not be this. Because you get two options when you grow up in trauma. You can either grow into it or grow away from it. You either become
Hmm.
the trauma that has caused all of your pain or you get the fuck out. And I wasn't going to be that person. I did not want to cause harm to the people I loved in any way, whether it was emotional, physical, or mental. Like, I'm not playing that game. So I knew in order to raise a family that I want to, because I want to raise a family who genuinely loves and supports each other, because I did not have that growing up. I knew I needed to find some type of way to actually deal with my issues as opposed to like suppressing and like coping with them, you know?
Mhm.
Um, which was nice because you cannot heal in the same place that hurt you. You can't.
Yeah. No.
Especially when it comes to families, because obviously your family has known you in all of your stages. And the way that your family thinks of you is the same way they're going to think of you until you're 110 years old. You will always be that kid. Like, especially if you have older siblings, I do. So I don't know
Mhm.
if everybody
I'm number
relates.
3 out of 6.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I'm 4 out of 8. So, like, I am the middle kid. I was always like the black sheep. I was the one who was trying to break general curses. I was going up against my dad. Like, my dad, in the worst way, was very racist, old Italian guy, drank, like, hates everyone but Italians, pretty much. And I was like, that's not going to be me. Like, absolutely not. I, like, did not want to be that person. I don't want my kids to be those people. So I was like, we
Mhm.
got to get out. We got to get out. We got to heal. My wife is also very involved in holistic healing now because we know that like when we raise kids, we're going to raise them to respect everything, not just like
Yeah.
people who are wealthy, not people who seem to be doing well in like the scheme of life. Like there isn't a path necessarily that you're supposed to be following when it comes to spirit. Spirit is just going to guide you. Like
Mhm.
it's not, there's no set timeline, and I think it took me a really long time to figure that out because I was in such a comparison culture, especially in fitness, where like I was always plugged into the matrix. I was always on social media. I was always comparing myself to people who grew up with me. Like I was always like, oh, well, they got a degree and I just graduated. Like if they've had it since right after we got out of high school and all of this shit. Like where I was always comparing myself to people who had supportive lives, like had the right opportunities in front of them and took them, but like I wasn't offered the same thing. So why the hell am I
Mhm.
comparing myself to somebody who grew up with mommy and daddy money and got to go to an Ivy League like because mom and dad took care of their tuition where I
Mhm.
had to take out student loans and I'm still paying them back now, you know?
Mhm.
And now here it just it's such a collective. Like the West Coast, you know, is such a higher collective where everybody feels physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually connected to one another. And they genuinely, like, yeah, they might not talk to you as much as you would like them to because you're an outsider, but they genuinely have like what is best for the whole in mind. And I
Yeah.
saw that in small ways, like just the smog tests. Like they care about your emissions on your car. When the fuck did the East Coast care about that? They haven't. Like so like I was small things like that that like really proved and showed me that I was in an aligned space by being on the West Coast. And then I
Mhm.
started going to like crystal shops are on every corner, metaphysical shops are on every corner, and you can go to yoga wherever you want. And like they have like different wellness, holistic wellness groups and all kinds of stuff. So like I
Even the
finally,
food is a little bit like the food is food. It's it's good, but out here in Syracuse, I can't really find if I want like I want to go get like a nice um nutritional packed healthy meal, fresh meal.
yep,
I can't find. I have to make it myself, or maybe there's newer restaurants that I don't know about. But when I got here, I'm like, where is like, okay, yeah, pizza's good, pasta's good, but where is the food that's gonna like fuel my body?
yep,
Nowhere. But out in San Diego, I want to go get a fresh meal that's like packed with nutrients, gonna
nutrient
really fuel
dense.
my body.
Yeah,
San Diego, I can find it. Here, I'm like,
yeah,
man, like,
exactly.
where you want to eat at? Oh, we got pasta. Like, I don't want no pasta.
Hmm.
It's
That's
good comfort food, but I need
exactly.
some fresh
And
food.
that's what I think the difference is that like on the East Coast, it's all comfort based because everyone is just trying to deal with the shit that they live in every day instead of like healing and fixing it. You know, like the
Hmm.
definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that is the East Coast to a T. Like everyone on the East Coast knows that they're fucking miserable for the most part because it's always snowing and it's cold, but nobody wants to get out. Like nobody wants to take the chance to go somewhere else, to see something else because they want to stay in their comfort zone. And I understand. I was scared. Like I'm not gonna lie to anybody. Moving across the country with like my a U-Haul, my wife, and our dogs was like the most horrifying experience ever. But it was also the most liberating thing I've ever done in my entire life because
Hmm.
I never thought I had the ability to get out of New York. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was like involved in the same routine I had been involved in my entire life. Like my family was there. I just didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I was going to
Hmm.
get out until I was like, fuck it, let's go. And then we started driving and we figured it out. Like we didn't have a plan. We didn't have a path. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just knew we needed to get to Henderson, Nevada. We were like,
Yeah.
that's the end goal. Here we go. And like by some act of source, by some act of God, like we had enough money for the hotels. We had enough money for gas. The dogs were perfectly taken care of. Everything went smoothly. Our cars ran perfectly. Like, I don't know how, but it showed me that like the only thing that was keeping me in New York was fear. And
Hmm.
like at that point, give it up. Like give up fear. You don't have control, honestly. Like yes, you have your own actions that you obviously make your own decisions and things like that. But like at the end of the day, like if shit is gonna happen, shit is gonna hit the fan no matter what you do. So like
Yeah.
you might as well write it out and see what happens. Like being scared is only stopping you from a multitude of experiences that you could be having because but you're not because you would rather stay comfortable. Um
Yeah. Comfort is a silent killer.
it is. It really is. And like in the same way that like ignorance is bliss, comfortability is stifling. Like
Hmm.
it is. Like you are always going to end up like you know your day to day and you know that if you do the same thing every single day, you'll get the same output and everything will be fine for the most part. But taking that risk honestly changes the game. It changes
Yeah.
the playing field. Um I would not be like who I am today if I had stayed in New York. And we've only been gone for 9 months. So like check back in a couple of years because it will be a whole different conversation. But I know if for me, I would have stayed very unhealthy had I stayed in New York State. I would have
Hmm.
continued to work until I was dead. Like I would have ignored my body and like now I'm finally started listening to it. I know like if I have pain in one of my joints, it's because I'm storing some type of stress, not because like necessarily my joints, yeah, they're falling apart. I have an autoimmune disease and I can't do anything about it. But like I also am not looking at it as like a condition that's going to kill me, you know?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, lupus is going to break down my body a little bit faster than everybody else, but my mom's 55 years old with lupus, and the woman is still raising 8 kids and has 5 grandchildren and working 2 jobs. Like, you can hold the victim mentality. It's the same as like comfort being stifling. You can be a
Hmm.
victim and allow it to change you and allow it to destroy you, or you can take it for what it is and learn and grow from it. And I have
Yeah.
always been a very strong contender in that you should not stay where you are. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of
grow
like
out of your shit.
it's like yeah, in spite of what happened, I can still move forward. I have the opportunity to move forward, and even when things go south or sour, all right, what have I learned? What can I learn from this situation?
Hmm.
Or how can I grow from the situation? Like, trying to think. I got out of the Navy this past December.
Really? Wow,
And
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And I was just like, so the whole time leading up to, I knew I was done. I knew I wanted to be out, but there was like some fears, like, man, then what? What do I do now? Who will I be? Because my whole, without me realizing it, I attached my entire identity to being a sailor. Because why? It sounds good. Oh, I'm in the military. Oh, girl, hey, thank you for your service. It sounds good. It gave me some kind of self worth, an identity, whatever. So I'm like, dang, who will I be without that? Like when people ask what do I do, because then there's another thing. People ask, oh, what do you do for a living? Why?
Yep.
Sometimes some people is like just small talk, but other people they're trying to identify on what level of respect do they give you? How do
Where
they
do
treat
you
you?
rank? Yep.
So I noticed that when I moved to Syracuse, because you're from here, the disparity gap is huge. So, I'm not gonna just hang out on the slums, because why would I do that? Like, I come from
Hmm.
the slums in Memphis, Tennessee, so
Yep.
why would I come here and go back to the slums? So I go out, doing my thing, and some people are kind of, I can say shocked, but like just like, well, I wonder what she do for a living. I'm young, black female, like, oh, what does she do? I'm in the military. They're like, oh, congrats, thank you for your service. But yeah, anyway, so moving here just made me, it forced me to look at myself, to be like, man, why am I so triggered by living in Syracuse? Because I never worked on the issues from growing up in poverty, dealing with just living in trauma. So when I got here, and everyone who looks like me are all on the south side. Not saying all of the south side is the slums, but it's rougher, and it
Yep.
reminded me of how I was raised and things I'd never dealt with. So it was so triggering. I'm like, why do I feel so uncomfortable in Syracuse, other than
Mhm.
the lack of sunlight, but also
Yeah,
trauma that I never dealt with.
it's
And
a lot.
then it was a lot, but I get out. And I was just like so afraid, like, oh, what do I do now? This and the third. And so I stopped working as much, and Stephanie started working more. So we kind of like we kind of switched roles.
Yep.
So I started working from home, working for myself, and she's working more hours at her job. And I took on more of the mom role for our daughter. And that was a challenge. I'm like, man, this is difficult. This is challenging. And then, like, 2 months later, there was a tragic, situation with my sister or sister-in-law, and then we ended up taking in 3 more kids. So now, and that was in March. So for the past 5 months, I've been like the stay-at-home mom. I work from home, but of 4 kids, I'm like, what is going on? And kids will show you exactly who you are, because they're gonna repeat everything you say. They're gonna repeat everything you do. So again, it forced me to like, I want to be a fucking better example for them, because I can't have them to. I don't want them to be doing crazy shit, and I'm asking them, why are you doing this? Why are you saying that? And they get it from me.
Yep.
I don't even know how I got there, but basically,
You're right though. Kids are the best universal mirror, honestly. So a big part of what I have learned out here is that everything that you notice that makes you uncomfortable in somebody is it's the universal mirror, and it's what you are uncomfortable with inside of yourself that you probably have not touched on. And I
Mhm,
have learned in the same situation, in a similar situation that you are, because now it's just me and my wife, like me
mhm,
and my wife and our dog. So we used to have so many people around us, so we didn't like necessarily know how to just be together with the two of us.
yeah,
And we were arguing a lot, and we had a lot of conflict because we were still figuring each other out, especially with being in an entirely new place and a new culture. It was a lot of transition all at once. And I started noticing that I was lashing out on things that like I knew about her. I've known about her, like we're married, but like never had the opportunity to like fully digest, I guess would be a good
mhm,
word. Like I never had a chance to like fully experience and embody everything that she is until we got out here.
yeah,
And that's when I learned what the universal mirror was, because like sometimes it was making me, sometimes I was getting frustrated because she is so authentically herself. Like
mhm,
that is the thing I love about her the most. I've always loved it about her. She is so unapologetically who she is, because she has struggled so much, especially as a masculine presenting woman. Like
mhm,
there's a whole different paradigm when it comes to that, and the competition between masks, and how one of them like they feel like emasculated around another masculine lesbian, so like some of them have to like puff up their chest and like be more masculine than she is, and men are the same way, where they downplay
mhm,
our relationship because I'm a woman loving woman, and they'll be like, oh, it's because you haven't met the right man. And it's just things like that where like she has always apologetically been herself. Like she knows she's fucking beautiful. She's a down girl. Like she's smart as hell. She is in no way apologizing. She's not going to make herself feel small for anybody anymore. And
yeah,
I have loved that about her. But as I was seeing it, where I was making myself feel small at first to try to fit in with people I didn't know, like at work, she
mhm.
did not care. And it was starting to frustrate me. I was like, why do you get to be yourself, but I don't? Like, what in me am I not touching on that like you have, like something you have
Mhm.
already healed through, I have not. And that's when I learned that everything is like truly a universal mirror. Like if you are uncomfortable in something, it is because something in you have not worked on. And kids will show you that without even realizing. Like they don't even know what's coming out of their mouth 98% of the time, but it's something you need to hear. Like
It's something that you said or did, and they just reflecting whatever you did. And so I started like in December, no, January, I started to work on my inner child work, because again, I have more free time. I'm not hustling, bustling. I'm not being so busy that I can't focus on what's going on with me. So I'm realizing like, man, I got some shit to work on. Like, yeah, I went to therapy. That's cool. But I really need to work on like some inner child stuff, because if not, it's going to keep coming up. It's going to always resurface in a different way. It's going to look different. So I started doing that. And it's been an experience. It's been an experience. And I'm able to embrace every emotion I have.
yep.
Like I went to see Beyonce a few days ago, me and
I
Stephanie,
saw
right?
that.
And I'm getting chills thinking about it. The way she, like, I love Beyonce. Like, been a fan of her forever. And her opening song was, "Dangerously in Love," which is like one of her first album, her
Yep.
first solo album. And she was like talking, just showing gratitude, saying how she's so grateful for her fans that allows her to do this for 25 plus years, and just talking to us, and then start singing this song. And it was like a beautiful, like majestic moment that I'm having tears. And if this had been like, some years ago, for one, I wouldn't have noticed how beautiful the experience was, and two, if I did notice it, I would have held in my tears. But I'm like, no, I'm gonna feel this experience. I'm gonna let the tears fall because it's a beautiful moment, and that's from doing the work. That's from doing the
Yeah.
work,
I
and
think there's a true amount of beauty that comes in to play when you fully allow yourself to embody things.
yeah,
Um, and it's like I also have learned that within the last year.
hmm
Where like I do like even if it's a TV show or something, like I am finally letting myself just like feel into things. Where like I have
yes,
always had, it's my masculine side. I've always been this masculine, tough, presenting woman who like I am the caretaker. I am always here to make sure that everyone's shit is together. Like, and if
hmm
someone is crying, like I am the one, and I'm still working through it. My wife and I, honestly, we just talked about it a couple days ago. I'm always the one to mask emotion in order to ensure that somebody else feels okay. Like I would rather let someone else cry and hold in my own tears than have them myself. So I think there is true beauty that comes into you finally just allowing yourself to feel,
yeah.
and
Because
that
even
comes into play once you have the time to actually do it. Like,
before, like I think I mentioned this on a different episode as well, but before, I start PMS a little bit, and something that come up, and I feel super sad and emotional, and it'd be a few tears, and then I will only cry with my wife. I will only cry around my wife,
mhm.
or tears. And I'm like, I'm only tearing up because I'm PMS. And she's like, babe, it's okay. You don't have to have a reason to be emotional. It's okay. You can be emotional other times of the month. And I'm like, it's only because PMS. And, fast forward to now, like I'm able to embrace whatever emotion I'm having. If it's sadness, anger, frustration, happiness, whatever, because it's fleeting. Those emotions are fleeting,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and that's
And
the
if I'm
beautiful part
blocking
of it.
off, if I'm blocking off sadness or anger, I'm gonna be blocking off happiness, joy, liberation. So it's
Hmm.
like I don't have to hold on to any of those things. But again, that holistic approach that you're talking about allows our body to
Yeah, and
open up and create space.
exactly. You have to. That's the big part is you have to allow yourself space, whether it is through somebody else or through your partner. Like my wife is a big part of it, and I give her a lot of credit because I have a lot of like old habits I need to unlearn. I do because I grew up in such a toxic environment.
Hmm
Um, but if I had not been given the space, like through my wife who genuinely is the same way as Steph. Like she knows her emotions and she feels into them. She's the one who taught me that like if you feel into them, they pass. If you
Yeah.
suppress them, you're holding on to them until
hmm
you break and then you just word vomit and it's never anything good. Like it's
Yeah.
so much hostility and anger and suppressed sadness that it's coming out as like bouts of like lashing out almost, where if you just allowed yourself to feel into it for the 5 minutes you need, it will
hmm
pass. And then like you will feel like a whole clearing effect where like you lose the weight that's been on your shoulders because you've been holding on to like something that made you angry 3 weeks ago because you didn't want to like rock the boat.
Yeah.
Um, the best way I've thought about it is that the boat is meant to take on waves. Like that's what it's supposed to do. It's in water. The water is going to move, the current moves, and there's no controlling it in the same way that there's no way in controlling how your emotions present. But like
hmm
you are meant to feel them. Like we are humans who have subconsciouses and have like conscious thought that like if we allow ourselves to feel into it, it will pass quicker than if you hold on to it.
Definitely.
And I just
I,
don't think we give ourselves the opportunity to do that ever. Especially I with an East Coast mentality. Like, luckily you've seen both sides, so like that's why you are in the perfect position to start teaching people in Syracuse like how to do this work because you have seen both sides.
but
Where
people got to be willing to and ready to learn. A lot of
yeah,
people, they don't want to. They're like
yeah, I think the
they're
pandemic.
closed off.
Yeah, I think the pandemic honestly forced a lot of us to be still because everything was closed off and started the revolution. I think we need people like us, though, like light workers like us, to really push it to where it needs to be. Like we have started the surface. Like TikTok is an awesome um way to learn about it because there's a ton of people on TikTok who want to talk spirituality and holistic
hmm
movements with you, and like that's awesome. But I think we genuinely need people who are so close to the community and can connect like you can honestly with most of the Syracuse community because you have been like through poverty. You are a Black woman. Like you have seen war truly. Like you were in the Navy. You have seen all
Mhm.
sides of the world where like you were in the perfect place to be like, I did this. This is what happened, and I'm gonna show you how. Like
Yeah.
because people don't believe things until they see it embodied. You know, like we are very factual people, especially with the education out on the East Coast. Like we are told like numbers and examples are how things are like how things become real. You know,
Mhm.
where like if they were to see you and your message and your medicine and fully allow it themselves to listen to it, it would start the entire catalyst that like the East Coast needs in order to allow the East Coast to heal as a whole. Like the society on the East Coast needs to heal. We're not
Mhm.
meant to work every day of our lives. We're not meant to be in a job from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. so we can pay our bills. Like we are not living to work. We are working to live. That is the whole point. Is like
Mhm.
money is supposed to be the gateway into having experience, like going and traveling and going to retreats, going to the other side of the world, going anywhere that is different than what you have been brought up on. Like, I think, yes, money is going to get you there, but you need to give yourself the experience.
Yeah.
And if you're not living it fully, if you're not embodying it like you did with Beyonce, or like you have, like I've seen your videos where like your kids made you cards and like that was a huge deal
Oh
because you
yeah.
weren't giving cards as a kid and like me either. It wasn't something we did. Um,
Seems like I'm crying a lot these days, huh? I'm
that's
just
what I'm
being
saying. Yeah, you're
open and
giving yourself the opportunity to though. Like, and that's huge. That's huge because not everybody will. Where you are allowing yourself the opportunity to fully experience, and that is something that I think we need to really get more involved in. I think a lot of us don't to experience anything, and it's just okay. I'm going to do this because I have an hour, and after that hour, I have to go to this appointment, and after this appointment, I got to go to work, and then I got to get the
yeah.
kids. I got to do the shit. Like, got to put them to bed. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people should quit their jobs. Like, work your jobs. And I get it. Money is the motive. Fine, pay your bills. But
Mhm.
allow yourself the opportunity to be still. Because if you don't, you are never going to break into or crack into the source and how much can become available when you allow yourself to have it. A big
Yep.
part of manifestation is acting like you already have the things that you are manifesting because you can't get from the universe what you're not asking for. Like closed mouths don't get fed. So like if
Yep.
you want something out of the universe, speak it into existence, write it down, burn it on a bay leaf if you feel so inclined, and then make action towards it. You can't
Mhm.
just like it's the people who don't follow through that think that the universe is doing nothing for them. But like
It's
every day
because
you are guided.
I think it's because like their belief systems. So if you kind of believe it just a little bit, oh, I think these things can work for me, and then just say there's a wrench thrown into your plan, and they automatically go back to their old habits. It's because their belief system isn't strong enough. They don't have
Mhm.
an anchor. I like the her name is Coach Val J. She talks about having that anchor, which is like your core beliefs. So when things come up, you still have your anchor to keep you on your path because yeah, something came up. Cool. Am I gonna continue down the path of where I want to go, or am I gonna go down the path of old habits and disappointments and what was me? And yeah, it's like a lot. So for me, it was like if you can see, you can believe it, but also like seeing it in my mind, like with through meditation. And other people need to actually see it like physical for them to believe it. It's like we all have this different level of how our brain operates or how we do things. For me, I can either see it physically or I can see it in my during meditation in my mind, and I know it can happen. Other people can only see it physical,
Mhm.
and then they'll start moving, towards like the goal or whatever. But I plan to have a. I'm looking to schedule, well, not schedule, but I'm looking to have like a seminar or an event next summer of
Yeah.
like speakers
Okay.
and things like that here in Syracuse. So that'll be pretty cool. I just was thinking about it.
Oh my god, yeah, let
And
me know. Oh my god, let me know. I would love to come talk truly. There's a lot. There's a lot that I think we as like workers need to start not necessarily forcing onto people, but like we need to start projecting it. Like there is a mass group of us that has so much knowledge that but we are contained to like the
Mm-hmm.
group of people are like-minded people. We're like, now we have to start doing what you're doing, like mass blasting information out to the world, using the internet. Like as much as social media does destroy the mind, and I'll give you that because we are a comparison culture, we need to start forcing the message out. Like not
Yeah.
in a way that like religion did it. Like I'm not forcing anything down your throat. If you don't want to listen, don't. But I'm still going to speak about it. Like I'm still going to
Mm-hmm.
start teaching. I'm still going to do what I can do to better my life and my family in hopes that it will ripple into other people, like into the entire community, because it starts with people like you. It really does. Like people like us. It starts with people like us who have learned and feel so compelled to start teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're in an awesome position being in Syracuse. I want to get you connected to Ella. She was one of the coaches, I think, when you guys were at Burn. She's now a Reiki master. She does like Soulful Saturdays on Westcott in
Okay.
Syracuse. She's very into holistic modalities. Her and I are in the same container with my coach. She would, oh my God, you should meet her. You guys would be so close, and she knows a lot about it too.
Yeah, I would love to connect with her because I don't know many people in Syracuse that's on the same
Yeah,
that's on that path. Like I'm
exactly.
seeking people out and I'm slowly finding people, but I would love to connect with her. And
Yeah, me too.
I got Ricky done back in I think it was in November, October, and I felt so relaxed afterwards. It was just like for the next few days, I felt like I was like floating on a pillow,
Hmm.
and it was just it was amazing. I
Yeah,
tell people all the
energy
time, like,
healing is
hey,
nuts. It really is. Energy healing. I know when you look at it at the surface, it just looks like somebody's putting their hands over you and like fucking moving some shit and calling it a day. But like, it really is so much more than that. And like, when you get into auras and energetic fields and the fact that everybody truly gives off, like, everything has energy. And we learned that very young. Like, everything
yeah,
has energy, everything has molecules, everything, whatever, is mass, is matter.
hmm
What we didn't hone in on that we should have was the energy that everything outputs, like the vibration that
hmm
everything outputs that directly affects how you receive it. Which is why Reiki works so well. The whole point of
hmm
Reiki is that it is moving stale energy out to allow new energy in. And that's how cleansing works. That's how breath work works. It's how meditation works. You process and move whatever you're dealing with out in order to allow something higher in.
yeah,
And it's the same with like meditation and stuff like that, where I think we have missed the mark. Like a lot of people on the East Coast they weren't taught the the human essence as a whole. They were just taught the physical. And
yeah,
like the physical can only maintain for so long without touching on the spiritual before something happens. Whether it's a health thing or like a job crisis or something traumatic, like it can only hold so much and do so much on a physical realm until you are forced to look into your spiritual self. And
yeah.
especially on the East Coast, I think it takes a breaking point for most of us. Like it took me like passing out for me to be like, I need to do something now. Like clearly this is not good.
Are you still passing out, or did
No,
you work through that?
no. I
Look at
mean,
that.
I have POTS and like it's an automatic nervous system disorder that couples with my autoimmune, and yeah, I'll deal with it forever. But I haven't had a syncope episode since we moved out here, right? Yeah.
But I'm saying you're managing it. Like it's there, but it's not controlling your entire life
No,
like it did before.
not even a little bit. And I think I've also become like a more patient person because I do know how to sit in stillness, like through meditation and through breath work and everything. Where
Hmm
before I would not have been. Like our first couple of days on the West Coast, I was like, why is everyone moving so slowly? Like, why do they have no sense of urgency ever? Like, even just in the way they were, like, they talk, like it's just more relaxed. At first, I was like, what the hell? Like, move. Like, I have to go. And
hmm
it took a really long time to adjust to like just flowing almost. Like I feel like
hmm
everybody here, and you know it from being in San Diego, just like flows.
Mhm.
And I did not know what that was like. Like I was like a rock in the middle of a stream. Like, nope, this is gonna stop here. And finally, somebody was like, "Nah, you got to move with us. Like we're all moving." Like,
Yeah.
and it was, I don't know, it's been crazy. I love the West Coast. I got to give it up to everybody out here, especially the sun. Very thankful for the sun. But yeah, I mean, coming into a place where everybody was like-minded and was more involved with holistic energies and more involved with holistic modalities really allowed me the safe space I needed to evolve. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that my retreat is like the almost the like final push to like really plunge me into like the light worker realm where like I am finally teaching my medicine and I am speaking my holistic truth and I am being authentic and I am stepping into my higher self um without fear. Like I'm just ready to release a lot of the fear that I had on the East Coast that I think is embedded in us due to the way that
Yeah.
we're brought up over there. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get you on an episode again. Maybe next time you'll be teaching it, and
Yeah.
you can talk about the retreat, and you might start hosting those retreats as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, let me know.
that'd be super
If you do
exciting.
one in Syracuse, I'll fly in for it. Seriously. Let me know. I think what you're doing, truly, Brittany, is going to start the revolution on the East Coast, and I am very, very, very happy that you are involved. And I do want you to meet Ella or Gigi, either one, because she's also trying to be a catalyst in the revolution that is the holistic enlightenment of the East Coast. Like Syracuse needs it more than anybody on this planet. We
Yeah,
are very,
definitely.
very fucking, they're very fucking close minded, like very close minded. So like I'm very proud of you. I know it's not easy, especially in a situation like that where you are in a place that is so close minded to speak your truth. And I give you all of the applause. Like you're killing it. You're doing a great job. And Syracuse needs it. So I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah. So, is there anything else you would like to close us out with? Anything? Any strong message or your go to phrase that gets
Yeah.
you out of tough times?
Yeah, if there's one piece of advice that I could give to anybody who is looking into holistic modality and spiritualism and unlocking the self, it would be to release all fear that you have right now and to not listen to judgment. It is something that not everyone is in tune with because they are so plugged into the matrix. And it's going to take time to follow you, but if you do the work, it has a ripple effect and the other people will feel called to do it. So find a mentor, find a safe space, find anything that will allow you the space to do it and
Mhm.
start. Like, don't be afraid. It's going to be weird at first. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but every piece of change that is worth it feels uncomfortable. So don't let it stop you. And if you need help, let us know. You've got a multitude of people around that will help you out, even if it's only virtual. So reach out.
Definitely. Like she said, release the fear. Release the fear. And I'll make sure I put her Facebook information. Are you on TikTok or Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know how TikTok works. Honestly, I'm trying to figure it out, but I think I'm too old. I don't know.